The cave was dark, the air thick with panic. Water was rising faster than anyone could run. Francis Reyes had just pulled one person to safety, but he didn't stop. He turned back, one more life to save, and then a wall of water swallowed him whole. On the morning of May 30th, 1999, the lush hills surrounding Utuado, Puerto Rico, shimmered under the soft Caribbean sun. The jungle air was thick but peaceful, and the only sounds were bird song and the occasional rush of wind brushing against palm leaves. For 17 people gathered at the entrance of Qua Los Angeles Cave. It was the perfect day for an adventure. Qua Los Angeles Cave was known locally as a hidden gem, a subterranean wonder carved out by time and water, a place where the outside world melted away and nature took center stage. The cave snaked deep into mountainside, with chambers echoing the drip of mineral-rich water and narrow passages that twisted like veins through the earth. It was a destination for thrill-seekers, tourists, and nature lovers alike, often explored under the guidance of trained professionals. That day's group was led by Francis Reyes, a well-respected local guide in the Utuado area. In his mid-30s, Reyes wasn't just knowledgeable, he was admired. His reputation for safety, patience, and deep familiarity with the terrain had earned him trust across the community. Francis had guided dozens of tours through the cave. He knew the tight squeezes, the echo points, the quiet corners where light danced off underground pools. To those who knew him, Francis wasn't just a guide, he was a protector. Among the group was Elba Vasquez Gonzalez, a participant like many others, curious, excited, and ready for the challenge. She had no way of knowing that she would later become the sole living witness to one man's final, selfless act. For now, like the others, she was all smiles, adjusting her helmet and laughing with fellow hikers as they followed Reyes toward the cave's dark mouth. Everything appeared calm. The skies above Utuado showed no sign of rain, and the air felt steady. No humidity spike, no wind shift. If danger had a sound or smell, none of them picked up on it. But nature doesn't always knock before entering. What none of them could see, many miles upstream from the cave, in a part of the mountain range hidden from view, a storm had begun to build. Fat droplets of rain had started falling steadily, soaking the soil and feeding the rivers that carved through the jungle. As the rainfall intensified, those rivers, linked to the underground channels of Qua Los Angeles Cave, swelled in silence. What began as a trickle would soon become a violent surge. But down at the cave's entrance, the group descended in single file, their headlamps flickering as they entered the cool darkness. The walls closed in gently, wrapping them in stone and shadow. Voices lowered, replaced by the sounds of shifting boots and the distant gurgle of water deep inside. For Reyes, it was just another tour. For the group, it was an unforgettable journey into Puerto Rico's natural beauty. But within the next hour, beauty would turn to chaos, and a guide would become a hero, because the rain was already coming. They just didn't know it yet. The group of 17 moved steadily through the cool corridors of Qua Los Angeles Cave. With every step deeper into the system, flashlights cut through darkness, dancing across limestone walls and reflecting off shallow underground streams. The cave breathed with ancient silence, broken only by the sound of boots on wet rock and the occasional murmur of awe. Francis Reyes led the way with practiced ease, his voice calm and sure as he pointed out features of the cave. Stalactites overhead, natural rock formations sculpted by centuries of water flow, the echo of a distant chamber ahead. For a while, it was everything they'd hoped for. Cool air wrapped around them like a cocoon from the heat above, and the path was manageable, narrow in some places, wide in others, always adventurous but never threatening. Reyes had done this dozens of times. His confidence was contagious, and the group followed him with light hearts and easy trust. But then, something shifted. At first, it was subtle, a faint change in the air, a new current brushing past their ankles. One of the participants glanced down and noticed that the trickle of water on the cave floor was no longer a trickle. It had started flowing faster. Then came the sound, a low, distant roar, like wind through a tunnel but heavier, thicker, wet. Reyes stopped his tracks, his head turned toward the sound. Within seconds, the roar grew louder, angrier. The water at their feet surged. It wasn't a leak or a harmless stream. It was a flood. He didn't hesitate. "Everyone, follow me. Now!" Higher ground. The calm was gone. Urgency took its place. Panic spread like fire. Flashlights jittered. Voices rose. The group began scrambling back the way they came. But the cave had already changed. What had been a clear path minutes ago was now a race against time. The water didn't rise gradually. It exploded. It came surging to the narrow tunnels, crashing into walls and lifting debris. Mud, leaves, even small rocks tumbled in the current. Some lights flickered out. Screams echoed off stone as people slipped and reached for anything stable. The cave transformed from silent wonder to violent trap in seconds. Through the chaos, Reyes kept shouting, rallying the group, pointing toward an elevated chamber up ahead, one of the few places above the main flood route. He stayed behind, pushing people forward, lifting them when they fell, pulling them away from incoming water. Then it happened. In the scramble, Elba Vasquez Gonzalez slipped on a slick rock and tumbled down toward the rushing water. Her flashlight bounced once and vanished. For a moment, she was submerged, helpless, but Reyes saw her, and without hesitation, he turned around, moving against the current, fighting through chest-high water to reach her. Grabbing her by the arm, he pulled her to a ledge and shoved her upward, back toward the others. "Climb," he yelled. "Don't stop." She obeyed, and because of that, she lived. But Reyes didn't climb. Others in the group were still scattered, and as he turned, a wall of water slammed to the corridor. Vasquez, gripping the rock above, looked back just in time to see Reyes disappear into the surge. One moment he was there, the next, the wave had taken him. The survivors, shaking, soaked, and in shock, clung to a narrow ridge of rock high above the flood. Some huddled in silence. Others sobbed, but all of them waited, hoping the water would recede, hoping Reyes would reappear. He never did. Outside, it took time before authorities were even alerted. The group was late returning, but no one knew the hell they'd just endured. Hours passed before emergency services realized something was wrong. By then, the cave had calmed, but the damage was done. Francis Reyes had led 17 people into the cave that day. 16 came out alive, and they owed their lives to the man who made the ultimate decision, not to escape, but to save. When the survivors finally emerged from the cave, shaken, wet, and covered in mud, the daylight felt surreal. Some collapsed to the ground. Others clung to each other, too stunned to speak. One of them ran to the nearest farmhouse with trembling legs to call for help. Authorities responded quickly. Within hours, search and rescue teams were en route to the cave, but the conditions inside were still treacherous. The same surge that had nearly claimed the lives of 17 people had not fully passed. The cave's tunnels were swollen with muddy water, visibility was near zero, and the fear of another wave loomed over every rescuer who stepped inside. Still, they went in. The operation was tense. Teams moved cautiously, sometimes advancing only a few feet at a time. The narrow passageways, jagged walls, and unstable footing meant that every step required calculation. Divers faced a constant threat of disorientation and equipment failure, and the emotional toll was heavy. This wasn't just a recovery mission. They were searching for a man who had given his life to protect others. After several hours of navigating the dark, flooded maze, they found him. Francis Reyes' body was discovered downstream, wedged against a wall deep inside the cave. He was still wearing his gear, face calm, as if frozen in his final act of courage. The current had carried him far from the spot where he had last been seen, and it had taken tremendous effort to retrieve him safely. News of Reyes' death spread quickly through Puerto Rico. In Utuado, his hometown, the impact was immediate and profound. People gathered in the town square, candles lit, voices hushed. He wasn't just a tour guide. He was a father, a friend, a mentor to young adventurers. Local newspapers called him a hero. Radio hosts played tribute songs. School children wrote letters to his family. For days, his name echoed across the island like a sacred word. One voice stood out among the tributes, Elba Vasquez Gonzalez. She had been the one who fell, the one he went back for. In interviews weeks later, her words were quiet but unwavering. "If he hadn't come back for me," she said, "I wouldn't be here." She described the moment she slipped, the cold of the water, the way his hand found hers in the darkness. She spoke of the last thing she heard him say, "Climb!" and how she obeyed, knowing he was still down there. Her voice cracked as she described watching the wave take him. Vasquez credited Reyes with saving her life, and not just hers. "He saved all of us," she said. "He kept us calm. He led us through the dark. He gave everything." In the aftermath, safety protocols were revisited across the island. Cave tours were temporarily suspended. Training programs for guides were updated. But beyond regulations and checklists, the story of Francis Reyes became something deeper. It became a reminder of how quickly beauty can turn into danger and how one person's bravery can light the way for many. He didn't have to go back for her, but he did. And in doing so, he became more than a guide. He became a symbol of selfless courage. The tragedy at Qua Los Angeles wasn't just a freak accident. It was a stark reminder of nature's power, the limits of human planning, and the immense value of courage and leadership in moments of crisis. At the heart of it all was a force that no one inside the cave that day could have seen coming: water. The rain that triggered the disaster didn't fall near the cave's entrance. It poured miles away, high in the mountains. And while the group inside the cave enjoyed a seemingly perfect day beneath clear skies, a storm system was already sending torrents of water crashing downstream. That water funneled into the cave system at terrifying speed, rising without warning, without mercy. This was a textbook flash flood, and it revealed a critical blind spot in outdoor adventure safety. Qua Los Angeles was a known tourist destination, regularly hosting groups exploring its tunnels. Yet in 1999, there was no upstream flood monitoring, no real-time communication system in place to alert guides about weather conditions in the watershed. The people inside the cave were operating on faith in blue skies, unaware that a deadly wave was already en route. In the days following the tragedy, experts across Puerto Rico and beyond began asking hard questions. Could this have been prevented? What systems failed, or never existed, to protect people in high-risk natural environments? The answer wasn't simple. The storm was natural, the danger was real, but the lack of early warning systems turned a dangerous situation into a fatal one. As the island mourned, environmental agencies and tourism authorities began to reevaluate their protocols. Proposals were made to install weather alert systems and to require guides to check upstream forecasts before entering caves or river systems. Some parks started placing signs warning of flash flood risks. Others suspended tours until new safety training could be implemented. But the biggest lesson of all may have come not from systems, but from a single human being, Francis Reyes. When the water began to rise, Reyes didn't freeze. He didn't panic. He understood immediately what was happening. In a moment where seconds mattered, he took charge. His instincts, born from years of experience in Puerto Rico's rugged outdoors, kicked in. He told the group to move. He found a path to higher ground. And even when chaos erupted, when people slipped, screamed, and the cave roared with rushing water, he went back. He went back for Elba Vasquez. He led her to safety. Then he turned again, heading toward danger, toward the rising flood, toward someone or something he thought he could help. He didn't make it out, but his actions ensured that most of the group did. Reyes' story became a case study in heroism under pressure. Outdoor safety organizations highlighted his decision-making in training courses. Survivors described him not just as a guide, but as a protector, someone whose calm authority and selflessness kept panic from spiraling into a massacre. His death sparked a wave of reflection, not just in Puerto Rico, but across the global ecotourism community. In online forums, rescue workers, cave explorers, and adventure guides began sharing insights and safety improvements. Articles were written, panels were hosted, and amid all the grief, something constructive began to emerge, a collective commitment to do better. Better risk assessment, better weather awareness, better emergency protocols, better training. Today, outdoor adventure guides in Puerto Rico are held to higher standards. Tour groups are more carefully screened. Routes are re-evaluated after storms. And while nature will always be unpredictable, there is now a deeper respect for its hidden threats and a clearer understanding of a human duty to prepare. The loss of Francis Reyes and the trauma of that day can never be undone, but they serve as a lasting warning. Adventure is never without risk, and more importantly, they leave behind a legacy, etched not just into the rock walls of Qua Los Angeles, but into the hearts of those who survived, and into the systems that now exist to protect the next group who dares to explore its beauty. Adventure often begins with wonder, an open trail, a beautiful cave, a group of friends chasing something unforgettable. That's how the day began for those 17 people. But nature doesn't give warnings. It doesn't make exceptions. And in just a few minutes, excitement turned into terror. In the darkness of Qua Los Angeles, with water rising and hope slipping away, one man refused to leave anyone behind. Francis Reyes didn't freeze. He didn't shout orders from a safe distance. He moved, he acted, he risked everything. Elba Vasquez survived because of him. So did many others. And though he never walked out of that cave, his courage lit the way. There are stories that teach us, and then there are stories that change us. This is both. In the heart of the cave, when the water rose and the light faded, Francis Reyes became a lifeline. His final act was not to escape, but to save.